Last time I showed you also with MySQL system CTL status MySQL I disabled that one. If when you disable it, it looks like it's not gonna be coming up at boot time. That's what I wanted. So this is what we did on Tuesday. Now I'm gonna start MySQL manually because we need to get into then work on MySQL. So this is gonna start MySQL processes, and it's gonna give me a socket and then a port, and also give me a process ID for MySQL with all the MySQL binary daemon as listening to port 3360. So now if I just do system CTL, a status of MySQL, you can see that it's up and running, and it is listening to this port, process ID of 5451. And if I want to just look at the socket information, everything again, LSOF minus P 5451. That would be giving you the details, and you can see the port that is listening here. So if I do grep for 3306 on ETC services, you will see a MySQL as a service that is configured for it. That's how the system knows what port it is there. Because if you look at the system CTL status MySQL you don't see a port information here. But when it comes in, it says, oh, this service is MySQL. It's going to use this port, and it's going to connect to that, and it's going to start. So now the system is running, up and running. I could log into MySQL, but I'm going to show you through examples of bash script that I wrote, so you could understand it better. Home, W. Lutfi, computer science, star 18, and let's go to MySQL. Okay, so a couple of things when you're writing. Last time I showed you an example of a Python script. I'll demo that one very quickly and just show you. In addition to SH, you could write Python, and I was telling you Python is a better software or better language to use for connecting to a database than a bash script. But you can get away with bash scripting mostly on writing bash script to connect to a database and read data and manipulate it in a lot of ways. You can do that. It's not, oh, you cannot do that functionality with bash. But the reason I'm saying that is Python is better because a lot of the functions that you will build in to interact with the database is already part of the Python modules that you could just download OS modules, download sys modules, download URL modules, download math modules, and each modules you may be manipulating some part of some computation that you're doing with math modules, and that computation or function calls that you're doing it is root or pow function or something is already built in. And then math you have to do, and bash you have to do basic calculator, then pipe it and generate it. Those are not functionality that it comes with bash. It's not there yet, or nobody wants to build bash for purpose of working with all kind of Oracle database, MySQL database and everything. But Python was from the ground up, it was written for that purpose. So that's why Python is a better example to work on MySQL database or Oracle database or graphic interface. When you're doing bash scripting, it's called bash scripting. Mostly it is 100% flexible, easier used on the operating system side. But then once it comes to connecting it to a database, if you don't have any other tools, it does have those options that you could connect to the database and query the database and manipulate data. So don't get me wrong on that sense, but the functionality, that addition features that you want to add, there's more rich functionality on Python or C++ or Java than a Visual Basic scripting or shell or bash scripting or Z shell scripting or TC shell scripting. So in this case, let me show you one of the Python script here that I wrote earlier, demo1db.py. And this one is basically showing you how to connect to a database instance. So in this case, it's importing a MySQL.connector modules. Last time I showed you on Python 3 version, I had already connected using pip to download this package, and this package is not part of the standard library of Python. It's not part of the tools that it is there, but then you have to just set up with pip Python installation packages that you could install packages, additional packages. And this is add-on packages that you configure and then you connect it. These functions that, for example, connect on the bash script is a command line that you do MySQL -u for user and then -p for password. You pass on this information through the same mechanism. And then some of these variables, for example, on the database is defined, and then right here is the same variables are used. So in bash scripting, if you're trying to do something like create a cursor, you're going to go through a for statement or while statement, and then you're gonna just do the record, fetching the record, and then for each record that you execute, you may just run this statement. But sometimes with bash scripting, you just have to pass on something with end of file, a document kind of parameters, which I'll show you. And then at that time, there's a lot of not the ease of use of the programming language as a developer is a little bit more tedious to do it, harder to do it with functions that are not available, the way it's not there. Now you passed on the argument, you're connecting to a bash, MySQL database, you're creating an account, and then certain parameters are passed on, certain parameter are from the shell itself. Now you're kind of like juggling things on differently. You just have to know each variables. If you define an array, how you pass on those arguments. And at some point, it gets a little bit harder on the memory management, process management, IO management, and all that technique that you use. So for a bigger job of a MySQL database, I would suggest that you should consider using Python. Smaller jobs, yes, I will show you right now, you're having no problems. So in this one, basically it dropped the database. And the nice thing about the structured query language that I was telling you last week, you have create commands and then the drop commands and delete commands. When you're doing those ones, you're defining the data. So by create, drop, or delete, you're either creating an object, could be table, could be index, could be user, could be synonyms, could be any object, views. And when you create something, you're defining the data definition for that database or that table or that index or whatever. So at this time, when you do that one, data definition language is supporting with this kind of command. The nice thing about MySQL, our structured query language, SQL, standard query language, is called the standard because when you learn the create database, look at this option. Let's say if not exists. So this is a good thing. It checks if this database was created previously, you run your script once, it's gonna check. If it not exists, meaning that if it is the first time I'm running my script, go ahead, create it. But the second time it comes, you run the same script over and over, it's going to check for PyDemo1. It says already exists there. So it's not going to just bother the developer or something. It says, okay, it was done already. And it's running the commit disregard. It's going to just say, since there was no changes, this commit is not any changes. So sometimes you could just put validation, say if there was some update, then commit it. But otherwise, just this one is opening a cursor, which means it's a buffer in memory that you're fetching records, and once you are done with it, you execute those statements, and you're just going to close the cursor later on. So right here, because there's other statements that you could use with a statement with cursor, and instead of opening it and closing it yourself, you let Python context manager handle it. So by default, when you open a cursor, if you didn't use the with statement, you have to close it yourself like this at the end. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of file descriptor for every object that you created. Every time you make connection to the database is going to be flooded with file descriptors open everywhere, list of open files that are still be connecting, whether standard input or standard output or standard error. Those ones are the one that are going to slow down your system. So it's best to just close them. And then if you do use the with statement with instead of when you create the cursor, somewhere here I said cursor when I created, let me show you that part. Cursor right here. So this is the cursor that is connecting. This connection that I open, I have these methods. One of the methods is called cursor. So once I open this cursor, it's going to fetch it, and then after that, when I'm done with the work, I need to close it. But with the with statement, and instead of putting this syntax, you could put something like with con.cursor and then as, and then con. And then, sorry, with this statement, actually, you could do this. You say with MySQL.connector.connect as con, and then later on, you could just, since you open it as con, now con.cursor is going to open. Automatically, as soon as you get out of this scope of this work, the context manager of Python is going to close it for you. So you don't have to do that. So at this time, if I just look at this Py script and I just say, since my database is up and running, if my database is not running, this will also fail, db.py. So right now it just successfully finished, and it is just going to be showing that the database was created, the tables I wanted to create, this is describing the tables information and show tables, and then here's the tables that are there. And then some of them are showing the type of objects that are there, byte, for example, character, byte, arrays, byte integers, and so on, byte float. Those are the data type that is supporting on that one. So if I just do something equivalent to that one with shell script, let's do star.sh, and I want to just show DBS. So if I just want to say, show me the database that are there, show DBS.sh. So since this machine was not allowing the root updates there, I'm still using the root account, but I'm going to show you how you can create account on a machine so you don't have to use the root as default one. And that's by default, I did not install I did not create additional users and other stuff on this machine because I wanted to show you that one on a Ubuntu. as well as some of the functionality, like that function was deprecated. I'm sorry, the password was deprecated, and it is not going to show you that way. So I'm going to um, show you two different CentOS, two different resolution for each one of them. So in this case, if you look at this one, let me clear my screen and then do this show command. This script is a bash script. It uses the env to export the bash. So what is env? As I told you that you could do shebang / bin / bash. Now, how do you know that this is actually opening a new subshell called bash and then it's running this command? Here's the answer to that question. If you ever thought of like, is this equivalent to /bin bash? Yes, it is equivalent, but this is more dynamic, meaning that if I put Python here, and the environment is going to find Python and it's going to just execute Python. If I put C shell here, it's going to C shell. When you do hard coded on /bin /bash, that one is hard coded. That means if somebody has the bash on user bin, not on the /bin, then it says bad interpreter. It will not find it in that location. And sometimes the bad interpreter could be coming as a result of your environment variables might be corrupt or something. It doesn't work that way, which means you have to get out and log in again and get the environment working. It shouldn't just throw bad interpreter if you're using which bash, like bin bash, because when you type a bash and then you say type -a for bash, you see that there's two versions. One is on /bin and one is on user bin. And if you just say file /bin bash and user bin bash, they both are executable, same thing. And if I just do ls -ld on them, -ld, you will see the size of them are the same. And so that they're basically pointing, one is for the bin for binary, one is for user. And then normally they are there for system as well as user bin. So if you look at your $ echo path, normally the environment variables or the way it is sent, you can say that, okay, the order that is going to look on my system is going to look at user local sbin first, then user local bin, then sbin, then bin, and so on. So this order should be other way around, actually. It should be on bin first, sbin, and then user bin. That is much faster because most of these binaries are not on user local sbin. But users chose to do it the way they want to do it because maybe on the user local bin, and when install the GNU tools, that added in the front, so that finds the GNU tools there. This path environment variable and LD library path, all those other ones that are on system related that I showed you with env command, they just come and go. They as the system environment variable that you define in your profiles. But if the set command, those environment variables are customizable, user-defined environment variable. So coming back to our script example, if I look at the show dbs.sh, this file is basically going to run the bash, and here's how you do find the answer to that question. So if I just do a PS here, clear the screen, PS here, and then cut that file. Notice that this one is saying, oh, I have one bash that is currently there. If I just echo $, that's pointing to 3699, which is my bash. As soon as I do user bin env bash, it just opens another subshell for me. Notice that at this time, I did not see anything that happened, but actually it opened a subshell for me. So if I just do another ps command here, you see that it just opened this bash for me. And now if I do echo $$, you will see that I'm currently logged on to this. So now if I just do one more of this command, sorry, one more of the user bin env bash, then it will just open another subshell. So notice my subshell is there, and then echo $$ is pointing to this. Why am I telling you this? Because when you're running a shell script, there's many ways you can run a shell script. So one of the ways that you could run a shell is if I just say show this db, is saying that show dbs.sh. On the top of this first line, I say shebang and then that syntax. That shebang is saying the first line is saying that use the env to load another bash interpreter for me. So if I just exit out of this and then say this, I'm going to exit one more time. Now I'm on my main one, 3699. Now I just show you the script again, cut the script file, and if I just run that script, there's many ways I showed you that it's going to run. So one way is, for example, if I just say show dbs.sh, one way is that make the permission executable. So if I just change the permission of that script to say 644 show dbs.sh, again, and now we're talking about security and permissions. So let me show you a way that right now, if I just run it, show dbs.sh, it's not gonna just run if I just run it this way, show dbs.sh, because that permission is changed. It's not executable. But if I say bash -x means execute it, and then in the debug mode, show dbs.sh, it's going to run the script as well as it's going to show me line by line for each of the script that it runs. It gives me an output and it show that stat. So the last command was using MySQL -u root -e show the database and it run it. Notice that I'm not using -p here for the password, and I did not provide any password. I'll show you the trick that you could do with MySQL, and because of the etc my.cnf and other ones, you could set up your environment for the clients to automate that purpose. So, and the actual password is saved somewhere else, and you have to protect it to just automate the system. So at this time, let me go back, clear the screen, and I'm gonna do the cat command. Actually, do the ls -l. So notice that file was there, and I could not do it like this, and then I could say show dbs.sh. I could not run it like this, but I could run it with bash -x. Bash -x. This would be one way. Another way is to source it. So if I do source of this one, it will run it again. That's another saying that source this file, and then it's going to look at each line and one line at a time. Source is actually borrowed from C shell and TC shell. It used to not be on corn shell and sh. And then on bash, they borrowed it. Bash is a little bit more enhanced version of born again shell. I mean, born, that's why it's called born again shell. So it does have some functionality that was not in the previous one. Corn shell has a lot of the functionality, but bash is an upgrade version of born shell. That's why I said born again shell. it's still growing. And then I was telling you about Z shell might be another choice, that when bash is completely grown up, it might work like Z shell. But at this time, bash is still in development, and it's doing a lot of good stuff as well. So let's look at another method. You could run this script, and by putting this dot, it's like sourcing it. So you could run also this script. I just did it, and it was so fast. Since the screen got refreshed so fast, we didn't notice it. So now if you see it, it just, you will see that. So this invalid option dash base, let me look at that one, say, try this one, base name. So if I go back to the show dbs.sh, somewhere I wrote the base name, and it did not understood base name script, base name $0, and so that's not there, but somehow within the printf statement is not coming. So I'm gonna try to do something like this. Let's say my name is equal, and then you say $, base name, and then $0. So whatever parameter is passed is gonna be just there, and then instead of this, I'm going to not use the backtick and say $, my name, the name of the script itself. So that one, if I just run it again, let's see if run it this way, and then change mode this time, 755. I could do a 755, or I could just say only myself I want to run it. So show dbs.sh, and then at this time I say show dbs.sh, and then it shows the name of the file as what was, and it's not complaining about the -b option because that passed it on. But whether that one is successful running it this way or not, let's find out. Yeah. So this option, because I'm not saying to execute it, notice that base name, that one was not somehow found. So whatever variable I use there, that variable is not there. So you could say bash -6 and show dbs.sh. It will run it, and it will run it like that, and it will come up with the values. So the other dot is not somehow transferring the information from the original command. Otherwise, if I say which bash, I could say, for example, base name of bash, right away it tells me that one. And if I say dir name of bash, it's going to say /bin or root. So if I just have this path and I say base name of, let's say, backtick pwd, it says base name is MySQL, which is accurate. And then if I just say dir name is anything in front of the MySQL will be the path. So that would show accurately up to that point. So this is the two command that was used in the script, and it does show that. So if I look at the such a script here again, notice that we did show dbs.sh. It just shows the database, and show dbs.sh, it's telling you. So this one, it says give me the MySQL. If I say which MySQL, this is going to return this. Now MySQL is the binary client version that I want to execute. So I'm just getting that executable here. Then here I just say use the MySQL database minus U for user, and then the password I'm not saying. This minus E is that the expression that I put. So in this case, I'm going to say show database, and every command on inside structured query language has to terminate with a semicolon. So I do that semicolon, and that produces this output of show databases. All the databases that are currently up and running on that one is doing this. So if I just say MySQL minus U root, and then it set me there. Notice it did not provide me the password because I put that one information. I'll show you. And if I say show databases, it will just do the same thing that we got out there. So if I exit out of this, how did I do the root password is under root directory. I put a file called my.cnf file. That is the hidden file. Notice that since I open it only readable by root. Now, if somebody else is non-privileged mode, if I just say switch user to wlutfi, and then I go to that directory, and now so notice that I'm wlutfi. So I go to C computer science 18 and then MySQL. And then I try to do the show dbs.sh. Since that one is not readable by me, I cannot even read the content of it. So it says permission denied. If I want to run it, show dbs.sh, it's also a problem. So which is good, that's what I want other people not to be able to execute my script and look at my database. If I just gave that person a pseudo privilege or access, they can do it. Or open it up to them, they can do it. So what if the person wants to do a connect to the database using root privilege? Could they just say which MySQL, and then they say MySQL minus U, and then give root minus P, and then just now if they do minus P, they have to know the root password. If they don't know it, they type in something, it says you're not allowed to connect. But if they know the root password, yes, it will connect. So if they just don't say -P, it's not gonna work either. But now I go back to my root, and then I say MySQL minus U root right away. I'm sorry, MySQL minus U root. It will just connect me. So how did I did that? Let me exit. So clear the screen and then cut etc root my.cnf. I already showed you from root and .my.cnf file, and that one is only readable by root. Everybody else does not have any access. Even root does not have write access, but since I'm root, you can always modify it with that privilege. So if I look at the contents of that file, it is basically 2 lines in it. One line it says use it for client purpose, and then to use MySQL client, and then what is the password? The password is this. And I know that you are seeing this one is okay, because when I'm putting this video online, people will say, oh man, he's giving the MySQL database password, but that's not a password that I will keep up. I'll just modify it again. You can see the name was not that hard to just guess. MySQL demo 1, MySQL test, MySQL Scott Tiger. Even companies, they just create accounts as default, like for example, root Solaris or Scott Tiger or administrator default password. Those are sometimes you do it for demo purpose, and as soon as you're done with it, you just change it and modify them. So these are not going to be in place. This is one example. So I'm going to show you more example on this directory. Start.sh. So if I just want to create a database, create my demo, clear the screen, create my db.sh, cut, create my db.sh. This script is a little bit longer, but it is the same. The fact that it becomes longer, if it's 1,000 lines of page, you want to still modularize it. If it's 100 line of pages, you could still modularize it. And the way you modularize it, you write small functions, small other scripts, you tie them together. In this case, I use MySQL again, and the same thing with bash. And then this, I'm just putting some bash statement first, then I use the the expression, and then show the database, and then after show the database, drop it if it exists, and then once I drop it, and then I show the database that it was dropped, the database that I was creating, and then after that I create it again. So this is basically show you the functionality if it exists and all the other things, as well as how you check whether the database exists, and if your argument is successful, what other MySQL command you run. So inside of your bash, you have some control to check on the instance. Say if $? meaning that the drop database was successful, then show the database that this MyDB is no longer there. So if I just run this script, and since it's executable, it's going to check. So here's the example output. So first I do a show database with this one. I create the database called MyDB, and MyDB comes in. And then I do, after the bash script created it, create the MyDB as there. And then the database, MyDB was existed, and we just dropped it. So I knew that this one was already successful previously. Now I'm going to drop it. Then after I drop it, I do another show tables, show databases. The MyDB is not there. Since it's not there, then I just recreate them with the create database command, and that gets created. And I just show you the script one more time. Cut create the DB, and you can see that the create database, this is good to just put if not exist, meaning if it doesn't exist, create it. If it's already exists, if I don't put this if not exist, this is going to error out on the script because it says database already exists. But the other parts that are like right here, if I don't put if exist, drop it, there's no not here. You just say if the database, you want to drop it only if exists. You don't drop it if not exists. That doesn't make sense. So you know how to do it, and then that's how you prevent that kind of logic out of your scripting to just error out for no reason. And clear screen again, start the search. The next one, demo1.db. So more demo1db.sh. This one, sorry, demo1db. Demo1db. Actually, it's 7:39. Let me just bring you on this other one, because I promised you last time that I will fix more of this. I'll paste those ones on the canvas for you so you can practice it. But I want to show you on Linux Mint, for example, how we do these things and create accounts and all that things. And that's also a good thing to cover up here. Open house, Linux Mint. Start. So while this one is coming up, back on the Linux stuff, one other thing that I told you last time and that I will fix on Linux Mint and then show you. Here's the problem with this. So if I just go to MySQL, why is it this? I just keep switching back and forth when I don't want to switch. Yeah, stay here. Okay, clear my screen. Okay, so I go MySQL minus U root. So I connected to the database. Last time I was showing you that, so I could say, for example, show the tables. I have to use a database first. Show databases. I know that these databases are available, so I say use MySQL, which is the database. I want to see the content of the tables. When you do that, and then say show tables, that one is basically showing all the tables that are within MySQL. It shouldn't be this slow. And so if I just say, for example, clear, not clear here, I could say system clear, system clear, system, not systemctl, clear, and then going to do describe a user. Since I'm inside the MySQL database, I could describe that table user. For some reason, the typing is just appending for no reason with an extra character when I didn't do that. So describe user, and then I say select host user, and then plugin, and then authentication underscore string from user. And then you could see that these are the stuff that is there. Since I defined last time, this one was empty. So since I changed the password, I also went ahead and changed the plugin to be, instead of MySQL socket, I made it MySQL native. So now I can log in with the root password there. But when we do select password, and then you just put anything, you say let's say MySQL, MySQL demo 1. If you just do that one, it's supposed to give you a select a statement with this, and that was not working last time I showed you. So I'm going to show you that on Ubuntu, and how I update the password and how I create accounts and everything with Ubuntu now. So let me just show you Ubuntu. Right here is running. That's good. And then we log into it. I like the interface of Ubuntu more than a lot of them. The front end on the Solaris, I like it too. But once you're logged on the system, the speed, I like it with Ubuntu more than other ones. This is just not in terms of speed, slowness about the VM itself. It is a hardware speed that is slow. And then Ubuntu still is a fast one compared to CentOS and other ones. So if I just open a terminal here and work with the terminal, as I'm giving so much credit, hopefully it's not going to slow down. Host name, this one is, if I say systemctl status MySQL, this one is not running as MySQL but it's running as MySQL. So you have to check on that, and then that's the process. And if I just say, go ahead, connect to the database. So at this time, I say MySQL minus U root minus P, and then it's going to prompt me for the password. So I type in the password. and it's not allowing me. Let me try it one more time. So it did not allow me because my ID is this. So I'm going to log in, become root, sudo su dash, and then I'm gonna just do that password. Now I'm on root. I'm going to do MySQL minus u root minus p, and then I type in password of MySQL, which I know it's going to work. So I say show databases, and as soon as I say the same thing here, select password, I could do password as a function, and then put my SQL demo 1. This is gonna give me a hashing code, and that's nice thing about it. So then I could just update those fields based on that one. So if I just go say use MySQL, and then here I could just create database, I could do a lot of things. So in order for me to do that, I will query this one. Let me just make this one bigger. I could say system, system, and then clear, and then system clear, and then I say select host, comma user, comma plugin, comma authentication string from user. Those are the fields that I want. As you can see, I had created the demo 1 user, demo 2 user, and then the root. And the root is still this password is not set, and then authentication is there. So what we could do is to update the root password to something in order to just make it a different password and flash the privilege and everything that I told you last Tuesday that I will show you. So here's our chance to demo that. If I want to just change that one, I need to do a number of things. One is that the plugin, I have to change it from socket to MySQL native, and then also use the hashing code for that one. So let's say I changed my root password to this password. I'm going to say select password, and I need to get a hashing code for the word MySQL, and then root with zeros, and save that, and then just like that. So that is going to give me a hashing code function pass. I just missed the word pass with S, one more S here, and then I'm going to put a semicolon here, so it gives me the hashing code. Now I have the hashing code, the entire thing. I'm going to use that one to update this authentication string with instead of empty to that hashing code. So I copy that line, and then I say update. Since I say I need to make sure that I'm using MySQL first, I say update MySQL dot user. I could put just users, fine. Set authentication underscore string is equal. I put that as string, and then to that where user is equal root. I want to make sure I put this information, my where clause is going to make it unique, so I only modify the authentication password for this, otherwise it's going to do all 5 of them, or all 6 of them, or 7 of them, whatever it is. If you have 10 records, it will do 10 records. So at this time, I'm going to update only this. Now it is going to just update only one. So let me verify that that part worked by doing this select statement again. And it did not show that it is updated. So, because ROO. So I need to do that ROO. I need to put a user is equal root. So now it says match one. Earlier it must have said match zero. I did not pay attention. Yeah, match zero. So match one, and it updated it. So now I'm going to do that update. Notice that this one updated with the hashing key that I was having here. It updated right here. So now the next thing I need to do is to change the plugin. I could say the same thing with my update statement. This time, instead of doing the authentication string, I just say update plugin is equal, and then put MySQL underscore native underscore password, and did that. Now one row matched, and then this time I'm going to do my select statement, everything back to this. So that password I just typo again. Let me just correct that one. This password, there's two S here, and then now I'm going to do that. It is showing password is accurate, and then my select update statement is accurate. So there's another typo somewhere. Oh, password. This update password. Let's see if this time it is going to show what I'm doing. MySQL native password. Execute this statement. Matched. Yeah, so okay. So somehow it was not executing properly the first few times. So now it is there. At this time, in order for me to have that privilege, I need to do one more thing. So I say flash. I could do commit here, and that means that changes is gonna take place. But I need to do a flash privileges. So without restarting the database, this should take effect. So I don't have to restart the database. And then I remember it was MySQL root. So now I'm going to just flash privileges. Let's see what is privileges. Okay, so the typo is this syntax. You have to put privileges. I had an extra A there. And then after this is privilege is done, I'm going to quit. Quit or exit will just exit you out. So at this time I say MySQL minus U root minus P, and then provide that I just said, MySQL and then root, and there you go. Show database. It is there. Use MySQL, it is there, and then MySQL there, and MySQL there, and what other things I want to do? Use MySQL. Okay, so this time I'm going to do that select statement one more time. Host, comma user, comma plugin, comma authentication underscore string from user. That will just show you, and you can see that all the parameters, because we flashed it and everything is accurate. So at this time, I'm able to create a user. I can do the select statement. So if I just say create a user Wahid identified by, let's say, password, I'm just going to say identified by my last name, Lutfi. Doesn't matter, I could drop it and everything. So it says there, it says create user Wahid identified by Lutfi, you have an error on the SQL syntax. Check it. So create, let's say create a user Wahid identified by password password and say Wahid Lutfi. So in this case, I'm gonna try to put that password into string. So create user Wahid identified by. Somehow what I type on the keyboard, it misses a character from my keyboard. It's either sticking or something, like H was not getting copied from there. Yeah. So if you put it within the string, it created the user. But now I have to give privileges for Wahid to be able to do this one. So I could say grant, select, insert, update, and delete on MySQL.star to Wahid. I could do that and then give it that privileges now that is there. So if I just exit out of here and just say MySQL minus U Wahid minus P, and then type in password of Lutfi, show database, and you can see that I was just creating, and then since I give it on MySQL there, I just want to create a database called MyDB, it's not going to allow me because I don't have that privilege granted. So if I just say exit out and then log in as root again, minus U root minus P, and then say MySQL root, and then say drop user Wahid there, that is gone. So next time I try to log in, that the login is not working. And I could give more privilege to users with different permissions. So you could say create admin, could create user admin identified by, let's say password would be by password. I'm just making it simple right now. So it just password, even though a zero there. So that this will just say create identified and not identified. So identified by password. Now if I just say grant all, meaning that everything, including the database password there. Grant all on star to grant all privileges on everything, MySQL, creation, database, schema, sys, and all that privileges, star on, and there's to admin, that is there, and then flash privileges, and then quit. Now I say MySQL minus U admin minus P, and then give the password lowercase pass W 0RD, logged in, show databases. Notice this time I'm also seeing the sys database and everything. Because I have more privilege with everything, I can say create a database, my DB1, and then just execute that one, it will create it. Now show databases. I have that privilege. I could create user Wahid identified by Lutfi, and then give that person privilege. I could say grant grant all on, because the other option that the admin gave me all the privileges to this one to Wahid. Wahid. So grant all on the start to Wahid. this is just going to be, let me just say grant all on star to Wahid. Using password, access denied. So this one, because the option when I grant all, I did not with cascaded option. With cascaded option, at the time that I gave this admin account with grant privileges, I could have said with cascaded option, meaning the same options that other ones have privileges, like he could also create the user and grant them further privileges. That's what cascaded option. Since I didn't do that one, I'm gonna drop user Wahid. Since I know that I can have the drop option, I did it, and then say exit out of this. Okay, so at this time, let me just show you one more way to do a query. Since I wrote a couple of other script here. So I go home W Wahid and MySQL. CS star 18 and then MySQL. So here, if we look at the, let me see where I put the SQL statement. Yeah, right here. And this one, I'm gonna move everything to MySQL, show DB and everything. So the way you move these ones and MySQL, you say move a star to MySQL, and then that would just say that directory itself cannot be moved. So MySQL, and then inside here, I wrote a number of things. One of them that I want to show you is a SQL statement. So cut create star.sql statement. This one is just basically granting the privilege to this user, demo 1, demo 2. So I could just create the database, an account this way also. And instead of saying create the user identified by password, I could directly say grant and this select the statement, these privileges to this user identified by this password. So let me just modify create underscore demo 1 user.sql statement, and I'm gonna just modify this one. User create this one demo 1, and let's say create the demo 5 user, and then just demo password is demo password. So at this time, if you just do this, you could do a query many ways. You could run this MySQL statement, MySQL minus u, MySQL minus u root minus p, and then say create this one. Oops, sorry. Minus e for this create underscore demo 1 user.sql, and it's going to prompt me for the password MySQL, and then L root. So this one, if I just say, sorry, if I just don't say this one and execute this one from the command line, meaning that just take that one as a source. Let's see if it takes it, because you could put the option of -s or something, and then MySQL root. So unknown database, yeah, because this one does not have the name of the database that it needs to. So I'm going to just get into MySQL minus u root minus p, and then type in my root password, MySQL, and then a root. So I say system ls minus cell star.sql, you could see that this is the file that I have for number one there. So I say use MySQL, and then I say source create underscore demo one user. Even though the name is demo one, it actually creates the user 5. And then that user 5 just got created. And then how you know that source is the command. So if you have a .sql statement, you can source it and it will execute it there. And the way you do it is \h. It tells you that there's a source command right here. Execute any shell script. So I could put a \dot and then the name of the SQL statement or source it. And now whatever was on that statement, whatever was on that statement, the reason I did put the function because inside Python, I was thinking that I was there. So clear the screen and then that file that we had, this file that we just created, user 5, if you say MySQL minus u root, not root, I'm going to say demo 5 user, and then minus p, and demo 5 pass, it will just log me in. Show database, it is there. Okay, so I passed away more than what I was talking about earlier. Unfortunately, I had to cover all of this. I'm going to post this information later on today, and some of it will be available right away, so you can work on it, and some of them it will be posted as time allows. And I'm going to also stop the video, and that way it could get recorded. I'll post the video as well. But from what we discussed Tuesday and today, Tuesday I covered till 11 o'clock or something continuously. I went through the lab all by myself, and I promise that I'm going to give you time today. So this is your chance to work on these examples that I showed you at the lab time. Go ahead, take a 10 minutes break first, and then when you come back at maybe 8:20, and then we just resume with lab activity. You go ahead and do the lab activity from that point on till like maybe 9 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, if you have any question, you ask a question back, then I'll put the audio back and we can answer. We don't have to record that part, but the part that we want to just cover is if you just want it covered at 9 o'clock, I'll record that one as well. But it's up to you guys whether that question is more private on your understanding of this, or something you want to discuss with the class. So, and go ahead, 10 minutes break, and then we come back at 8:20. Thank you.